Hi, it's Kelly Coates Gilbert. I am broadcasting tonight from Dallas, Texas. And I have a wonderful author friend here tonight. This is Elizabeth Bromke. She lives in Arizona, right?
Yes. Yep.
So she's also in an area that is sweltering hot. I'm in Dallas and the weather has been very hot. But we're here tonight because we want to just chat with you guys for a while. And before we do, I want to tell you just a little bit about Elizabeth and her books. Elizabeth started writing in 2018. She is a wife and a mommy and a full-time author. And I don't know how she juggles all that. We'll talk to her tonight and find out. But she writes on her website, this is what she says. She writes heartwarming fiction with quirky small town characters. Those are my favorite books. Those are the authors that I love to bring to you. Those romantic women's fiction authors that have the sweet characters and the small towns and the interesting plot lines. Those are the ones I love. And her readers agree, because listen to some of these reviews. I'm going to pull just a few of the kind of phrases and things that I saw often in her reviews. Page turner. Just one more chapter. Delightful, heartwarming, and emotional. I can't wait for her next book. So those are the kind of things that her readers like to say. And let me tell you something, I checked, she has a lot of readers. Her rankings on Amazon are very impressive. And there's a reason, and she's going to tell you about it tonight. So welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining me here tonight.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm very excited to be here. That was very kind of you, a very kind introduction.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. Some of you don't know that we get to visit just for a few minutes before we go live. And I sure enjoyed getting to know Elizabeth. But one of the things I asked her, because, you know, we're all friends on Facebook, but rarely do we actually get to talk. And so I said, did I pronounce your name right? And she assured me that I did. It is Elizabeth Bromke. And for all of you who see her comments, she sometimes posts from a personal page called Sarah Elizabeth Bromke, but it's the same person. So if you see Sarah Elizabeth Bromke, that's your girl. So tell us about your writing journey and when you started writing, how you knew you wanted to be a writer. I love hearing about people's journeys to writing.
Okay, well, it certainly started when I was a little girl. I've written since forever. I've been a reader, a serious bookworm. And in fact, when I was probably 7 or 8, I decided to begin my publishing journey and wrote a little chapter book and packaged it in a yellow manila envelope, and looked up in one of my books the address for, I think it was Simon and Schuster. I don't even know how to pronounce that now that I'm saying it out loud for the first time in my life. And I sent it off, and they did send me a rejection letter, which I don't have, and I'm so sad, but I was excited to get. So it started then, but in earnest.
Entrepreneurial.
Pardon?
That's very entrepreneurial.
I never stopped writing, and I ended up somewhat making it my career. Initially, I teach high school English, and then I became a published writer in, like you said, 2018.
So do you still teach school too then?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Did not know that. Oh my gosh, your plate is full.
It is, yes.
How
But
do
I
you
like it
do
that
all
way. It's busy. It's a busy day. I get up early, very early. And, you know, the nice thing about being a teacher is we do have summer vacation. And so I try to get a lot of work done over the summer. Same with, we have a fall break and a winter break. So my time off of school, I just really get ahead as much as possible. It's harder. It's much harder to write, of course, during the school week.
You know, that's kind of a common theme with best-selling authors. Work 24/7.
Yeah.
Sounds like you work a lot.
Yeah. I
Tell
do.
me what a typical you know, the days that you're writing, tell me what a typical day is like for you.
Sure. I try to write every single day. So even on school days, I wake up, my my husband wakes me up because I don't have personal discipline, but he has discipline for me. Thank goodness. He wakes me up. I have him wake me up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And I write until, if it's not a school day, I write until about 8. And if it is a school day, then maybe 6 and, until I start getting ready for school. And that's about it. I just pack it into the very, very early morning. Sometimes I'll stay up later and get a little done once my son goes to bed. And sometimes during nap, if I'm home for nap time. But mostly I get up early, I get a cup of coffee, and I settle in by my window and just get the ball rolling.
I couldn't help but think what a wonderful blessing it is that you get to write from home and be with your baby.
Yes.
How old is your little guy?
He's 4.5.
Very
Yeah.
active age.
Yes, very. He's a joy though. He's at my parents' house right now, so that our house is nice and quiet, if everyone could take notice of that.
It's funny because when I do these chats, my husband picks up our little Yorkie and goes in the den and hides out as well. Tell me a little bit about your catalog of books. I know that you just had a brand new series debut on July 16th. Tell us about that book.
Yeah. Okay. I just got my own copy right here. So this is, thank you. The funny thing, and we can talk more about covers in a minute. This is actually not the final cover. This ended up being an earlier edition. My designer made a couple tweaks, but this is the Summer Society, and it was originally going to be a standalone, just a standalone beach read, but I fell in love with Gull's Landing. That's the town. It's fictional New Jersey. It's on the Jersey Shore. And there's a character who appears in the story named Aunt Lil, who's written after my mother-in-law and my aunt-in-law's, their own aunt who lived on the Jersey Shore. And she just really won me over. So I have developed 2 more books for Gull's Landing they'll come out later this year, it looks like.
Oh, great. So, so one of the questions I like to ask is do you ever use real people to influence your characters? And it sounds like you do.
That was a very good example. That this is the first time I talked a lot to my mother. So my in-laws are from Philadelphia, and my husband and his sister and the whole brood would spend the summers, as they say, down the shore, which is the phrase I learned. And so I talked a lot with my mother-in-law. Her name is Sissy. I think she's watching. Hi, Sissy.
Hi,
and and my aunt-in-law, so Sissy's sister Vicky, Aunt Vicky, and then my sister-in-law Kara, and they gave me a lot of information, and they talked about their Aunt Lil, who always wore a bathing suit. She smoked cigarettes, and I just loved that. I just had that image, and so that's a great example of a time. My Aunt Lil is definitely the Aunt Lil. And certainly little inspirations here and there from others. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I ordered the paperback, and I should have ordered the ebook because it didn't get here. Paperback a little longer, especially right during COVID. But I wanted a copy of that book because of the cover. It was so lovely.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how you do your covers, because they're some of the most stunning covers I've ever seen, especially for women's fiction.
Thank you so much. So for the Summer Society, so we went a different direction. My designer, Willette, and I went a different direction for the Summer Society. I hadn't, with Hickory Grove and Birch Harbor, my other 2 more popular series, we didn't use models at all. And the reason was I wanted it to be very clear they were women's fiction and not romance primarily. And particularly with Hickory Grove, if anyone's read those books, it's so much about the location, the house that they're renovating, or the little building that they're bringing back to life. That was the emphasis. With the Summer Society, the friendship is the emphasis. And so I really looked at Susan Mallory and Nancy Thayer. I looked at those books for kind of inspiration. And so we just went with the beach look and with the silhouette of the 3 friends.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I had a really exciting opportunity to be mentored for a little while by Debbie Maycumber. And one of the things that she talked to me about was how important branding is, and that readers are just like people who go to the grocery store to buy soup. If you go to the grocery store shelf and there's a red can, you know it's Campbell's. And if it's a blue can, you know it's Progresso. And if you mix them up, you would really make the consumer angry. And if you took the label completely off to where they didn't know what was inside, you'd make the consumer angry. And so for readers, they need to know what they're getting. And I think that's one of the things you do so well. You know, there's no chance that a reader is going to pick up your book and not understand what's inside that beautiful thing, because your cover just depicts it.
Thank you.
Spot on. Love them. Love your covers.
I'll tell Willette. She'll be thrilled.
Yeah, tell her. One of the things that is different for any of you readers who may not know this about the publishing industry, we're both independently published now, which means that we carry the load of all the business aspects of publishing our books as well, which means cover creation. When you're traditionally published, you sell your novel and the publisher gets to title it and they get to put the cover on it. Now, often an author gets to have consent, but they do pick the cover. And we were laughing earlier when we were talking because one of my covers, I was in a women's fiction group and they used to give the Toilet Bowl Award. And the Toilet Bowl Award was for the worst cover for the whole year. And I got it for one of my covers because my publisher sold the rights, the large print rights to a company, and they had the right to put a new cover on it. So I'm just going to show, we were laughing earlier. This was the original book, Where Rivers Part, set in San Antonio, Texas. This is the Toilet Bowl Award cover. If you notice, that is not San Antonio, that is Dallas, Texas. And everybody who sees this believes that she looks a little bit like a prostitute in a sleazy town. And so hence the Toilet Bowl Award. So you would not get the Toilet Bowl Awards. You would get whatever the antithesis of that is, because we love your covers.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy with them. I've come a long way, I think.
And tell us about some of your other series, because you've got, I mean, I looked at your catalog of books and you've got a lot of books out since 2018. I mean, I was duly impressed. So tell us about Birch Harbor and Hickory Grove.
Sure. Whoops, I'm sorry. Birch Harbor is my most recent and it's still in progress. And it's set in, I'm going to just adjust my camera. It's set in Michigan and on Lake Huron. And it's a true women, it's a family saga, and it follows 4 sisters. It has, each sister has a romantic subplot, and then there's a mystery that I've strung through the 5-book saga. And it won't be answered until book 5. So we've got a little bit of a cliffhanger on each one. And I have family.
When you that page turner and just one more chapter thing.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so. Yeah. I have family in Michigan, and I spent my many summers growing in Michigan, and I loved how green. I'm from Tucson originally, and so it was so nice to be on grass and to catch lightning bugs, and there was water nearby. Now I live in northern Arizona in the mountains, and so we have trees and grass, and so I get the seasons again. But yeah, so that's about Birch Harbor. Hickory Grove is set.
I just want to interject that on Amazon, the rankings for that entire series are just, so there are readers out there that are absolutely loving that series. I think what happens is they pick up that first book and they can't stop. They just keep reading. And it's almost like the Mitford series. You know, when you read that first one, you're done. You're going to read them all. And so I think that's what's happening, because your rankings are amazing.
Well, thank you. I'm very proud of it. I love writing. It's just a story that's living in my heart. And so I hope maybe that's kind of coming through. Yeah, I do. I really love Birch Harbor. Then there's Hickory Grove, which was my first women's fiction, romantic women's fiction, set in rural Indiana, very southern little corner of Indiana, right where it turns into Kentucky. And my mother's side of the family is from that area, and so I set it in a town where I also still have family. I tried to stick to locations that I know or I can learn about really well. And let's see. And so that will be a 5-book series come December. And each book also features, so those are friendships, and the women are friends. And there's this romantic subplot, and a home is featured obviously prominently. So some people call it the house series.
Such a fascinating way to do a series. What she's done, it sounded like to me, is she took this series and she made each story about a particular house or building and set the story around that. And the cover, the cover depicts that. So
That's right.
a cool idea.
It was fun. Yep. So the first one is the schoolhouse, and that's based on the little one-room schoolhouse that my grandfather went to, attended through 8th grade there in Elizabeth, Indiana, and it's still standing. And so we went and I actually took my first kind of writing research trip last year to visit it, and then it just kind of went from there. So there's the schoolhouse, the Christmas house, the farmhouse, the innkeeper's house, and then coming out in December is the quilting house, which is a Christmas story. And the farmhouse is probably, it seems to be the most popular of those, and I loved writing each one, but the Christmas house has a special place in my heart because I think it's a little different, and I really like, so the story is based on the idea of, people who keep their Christmas decorations up all year long, never take them down.
I know some people like that.
I think it's a common thing. We have a neighbor who, and I'm not just talking about, clear lights, it's full-blown Christmas, never. And every time we drive by, I think, why? What is going on there? Well, when I was thinking about that story, I lost my aunt, and who was, we were very close, and she was very, very close to my grandmother, and my grandmother struggled a lot with her passing, of course. And so I just thought a lot about what losing someone important really does to you. And I think it freezes life a little bit. And so in the Christmas house, Fern's life just pauses in the wake of her mother's death. And she just clings to the Christmas spirit year round to kind of get through it.
Sounds like a really emotional book.
Well, thank you. It was a special one for me. It really was.
So is that up for pre-order then?
That came out last year.
It came out last year. Okay. Oh,
Yep.
so it's available. So it's available, everyone.
Available, yes.
Copy, especially. Is it, that perfect one to read during your Christmas season?
Yes, I'd like to think so. It's pretty Christmassy. I think the cover that really, I got a lot of compliments on the cover I don't have a copy of it with me, but it's a gorgeous cover, and it's all about Christmas and the romance. I pulled in some classic Christmas movies, Miracle on 34th Street, and it's very Christmassy. Yes, I think it's.
I was just thinking, this particular year has been, for a lot of people, maybe we need to just have some Christmas in July, girls. So maybe we just all go order it and immerse ourselves in this wonderful Christmas story and get all the feels, because that's what reading's about, right? And from what I hear, Elizabeth gives us all the feels in her stories.
Wow.
How long does it take you to write a book?
I write pretty quickly. Doing it every day certainly lends itself to some momentum. So it depends on the length. Birch Harbor, each story has taken me about 30 days. And those books range from about 200, about 300 pages in length.
Boy, that's fast. Yeah.
That took longer.
Yeah. So, and tell me, one of the questions I love to ask is, which of your characters in all your books, which character would you say is the most like you, and why?
I watched your chat with Jan, and I heard that question, and I thought, oh, I don't know the answer, because I agree with her. They all have a little bit of me. In Birch Harbor, I really applied one element of myself to each of the sisters. And that way it was kind of something I could remember about each one. And Amelia has so I studied theater in college. And so she has the theater. Kate is the oldest sister and the responsible one. And I'm the oldest in my family. Clara is Well, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'd say probably Clara, because she likes a quiet life. She sits at home at night and she reads and she has tapioca and watches Jeopardy like I do. And she, just a kind of a likes that quiet, quiet, um, um, introverted. So yeah, probably Clara Hannigan, I would say.
Do you have a character that your readers tell you they just love to hate? Do you have a villain that's just everybody's,
I would say most recently, just from my most recent Birch Harbor book, Fireflies in the Field, it would be Judith Carmichael, who is truly the villain. And that's the first, pardon?
Why do people like to hate her?
She antagonizes the Hannigan sisters. She has a bone to pick with them. And she comes across as cutting. We're not sure what her motive is. So part of the mystery in Birch Harbor rests with Judith Carmichael. And she seems a little evil.
I don't know about you, but I've every classroom, every organization I'm in, there's always kind of one that is the pickle in the group. And so you've written the pickle, huh?
I hope so. I hope so. She's fun to write.
I looked up because, we've been doing these author chats. Gosh, I've been having fun. We started in about May, and I'm going to be real honest. The reason I started to do these was COVID related. I am an introvert, but I'm an extroverted introvert, meaning that I need people, and then that's enough, and I can go back into my cave and write. But I can't just sit in my house day in and day out. And I found that there were weeks where, I hate to admit this, but there was no reason to put makeup on. There was no reason to get dressed. I just wrote. And so I did this primarily for me. And I have had so many emails thanking me, because I think everybody's feeling the same way. At least once a week, we all get together, and they're pretty informal, and we just meet a new author and we get to chit chat and be girlfriends for a little while. And, so even if y'all don't like it, I'm doing it for me. But I picked up a bunch of questions today because I was kind of, using the same ones over and over. And so I found some really good ones. So here's some new ones. What is the first book that made you cry? The first book that you ever read that made you cry?
I remember when my grandmother read I'll Love You Forever, that children's book.
Yeah.
I don't know if I cried then, but when I read it to Eddie, I cry now, that's for sure. But the one I know I read was that I cried when I read the first time, I have a very clear memory, was The Five People You Meet in Heaven, which my mom made me read as a punishment, although reading was never a punishment for me. But that was that was a very, it really hit my heart. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine, I was thinking about my answer to that question, and mine would have been Charlotte's Web.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Charlotte, and I just sobbed. And then, of course, Where the Red Fern Grows. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Bridge to Terabithia, now that we're getting back to kind of middle grade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people say they don't like to read books that make them cry, but if a book can move me to tears, oh my gosh, if it can make me laugh, or if it can make me scared, if I'm that engaged, that author has done his or her job. I mean, it's a good book if it can get you that involved to where it pulls your emotions. Don't you agree?
Yes.
So if you could tell your younger writer self anything, what would it be? You're that little 8-year-old girl again, and you're getting your book ready to send off to Simon & Schuster. So what are you going to tell her? Now that you
would have said, save that rejection letter and the manuscript. I would love to look at it today. I don't know what happened to it. Currently, so with my very first series, Maplewood, which is sweet romance, I jumped between subgenres within that series. And I look back and I certainly was finding my voice, and I was exploring, where I really was going to land. But it definitely made for a little bit of a it just jumps around a little. And so that
thing that Debbie Maycumber talks about.
exactly.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends who successfully, in fact, Jan was here last week, Jan Moran, and I was so amazed at how many genres she had written in successfully.
Yeah.
And her readers just follow her all around. So that's, the rules are meant to be broken. That's for certain.
Good point.
Let's see. Oh, I love this question. What was the best money you ever spent as a writer?
Oh, I would say a couple things come to mind. So editors, certainly, even though I'm an English teacher, anyone who's got a strong, you have to have editors because you miss so much.
Yeah.
That is crucial. And I thought with Maplewood, initially, I thought I could get by because not only am I an English teacher, my husband's also an English teacher. So we know the rules to the game, but you have to have editors on your team. Great cover designer, obviously. And then I most recently.
Those people are expensive.
Yes.
I mean, this business is not cheap.
Right. I'm very excited because I just bought Vellum, which is a formatting program that I'd heard about and just pushed against. But now I think the interior, the Summer Society is the first book I've used it on. And I think it just makes such a difference.
Oh yeah, that's pretty.
It just looks so much nicer.
The drop caps and everything, which is those big letters at the first of the chapter that look big and kind of drop. That's called a drop cap, I learned. And I mean, there's so many fascinating things about this business. Sometimes I wish we could go on a retreat and just scoop all our readers and all our members here at She's Reading. And, that's my dream. And actually, I'm a praying girl, and I actually asked for that. So stay tuned. I would love to go on a retreat with a bunch of readers and just talk business. So what does literary success look like to you?
Oh, that's a great question.
I didn't come up with it, but it's a good question.
Literary success, I love hearing from my readers and hearing that they love my stories. That validation means everything to me, either in reviews or in emails. I got a Christmas card from a reader this year with a compliment, and that just made my day. I just like hearing that the stories are working, that they want to read what I'm writing.
Because I don't know about you, but I sit down every day and I have some readers in my head that just come into my head, and I see their pictures mainly because I've seen them on Facebook. And when I'm writing, I think, oh, so-and-so's going to love this. Oh, this is a character they'll love.
Yes.
It's just so fun.
Yes.
And one of the things I really wish is that I could climb inside my readers' heads and listen to their inner thoughts as they're reading my story. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yes.
But sometimes reviews give you a little peek into do you read all your reviews?
I read, so I have an art team, which I've actually mentioned in my introduction post before we started video chatting. I'm opening up some positions on my women's fiction, specifically that team. But I do read those first ones because I think that I can get some good feedback, and they're women. I really trust their judgment. And then after that, I try to kind of back off because it can be hard to. Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure I speak for Elizabeth too, but every author so appreciates the time and effort a reader goes into to review a book. Because if you don't know this, when there are a lot of reviews up there, and they don't have to be eloquent, they can just be one-liners. I love this book. But when there's a lot of reviews, the retailers pick that up and say, oh my gosh, look at how many reviews this is getting so quickly. And then they push the book. They give the book an extra push. It really helps an author when you review, especially if you review a book early. But we all have those reviews that sting a little bit and you think, what? And I got one this week. I just have to tell it to you because I memorized. This is what this reviewer said. Quote, I did not order this book. It should not be on my Kindle. I will not read it. And they gave me a 1 star.
Oh, that's
I thought, how did you get it if you didn't order it? But maybe, Amazon just gifted it to him. I don't know. But I thought it was really funny. Anyway, it made me laugh. And so every once in a while, I'll get one of those kind of crazy reviews that just make you go, what? So honest reviews are great. An honest review helps readers to know what the book, and I think everybody appreciates it. So for those of you who take the time, thank you.
I agree. Thank you. Yes.
So you mentioned an ARC team. Some people here tonight may not understand what an ARC is or what an ARC team is. And most authors have them. So tell our readers, our members, what that's about.
So an ARC team is an advanced reader copy team. So those members get early, oftentimes unedited, certainly pre-published copies of the upcoming releases. And they
anyone else, right?
Pardon?
Get them before anyone else.
Yep, they are the first. This is the first set of eyes on the book.
And complimentary, right?
Pardon?
They don't pay for them. They're complimentary.
Right, complimentary. And the idea is that you read the book early, and then once it goes live, or even before potentially, you put your review out on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads, BookBub, and that helps to drum up excitement, of course. And it's part of our release or our launch. It's a really, to me, it's a really important part of my publishing process, because I'll do a gift card for my ARC readers each month with the book. If they notice any typos, or if they have anything else they want. It's so a big part of what I love about this whole thing is just hearing from people reading the books and giving me their observations. I've always loved reading so much. I like talking about books. I like everything about it. And so the ARC team is so important to me. So yeah, the advanced copy, you get the advanced copy complimentary, you write a review, and you're just kind of on the inside scoop, I guess.
So Elizabeth posted some information on an earlier post. And so go there. If you're interested in this, go there, and she gives instructions on how to apply, because not everyone can be on an ARC team. You can't afford to give that many books away. But so those spots are very coveted. And so if you want to apply for her open spots, go there and do that. She's also listed her Facebook, her BookBub, and yes, please follow us on BookBub. Authors love to be followed on BookBub, because that helps us too, because BookBub is a big advertising venue that you have to apply for those advertising spots, and they're only available if you have a lot of followers. So when you follow us, it helps us. So do that, please.
I'll go and add those links after this video.
Yes, and I think, you added some, so any that you want to add, go ahead and sign up for her newsletter and those kind of things if you want to stay in touch with her and see what she's got coming out. I want to ask just a few more things before we end here. What is the most difficult part of your artistic process? And when you get stuck, like we all do on occasion, what do you do to get those creative juices flowing again?
I had that this morning with Cottage by the Creek, which I'm just about done with, but I've got a little plot point there that's kind of sticking. I do very, very rough outlines, and then I just hit the ground running and I start writing, and I'll write a chapter, I'll read it back, and I'll move on to the next, then I'll read the last two. So that's layering or writing into the dark. And sometimes I write myself into a hole, and that happened today. And so for me, it's going for a walk. Sometimes I'll talk to my mom or my husband, but not even to get their input. And yes, I want your input, Ed and Mom. I know you're watching, but to hear it, to talk it through with, and just kind of work it out myself.
Looking again, yeah. I've got someone like that in fact, I just spent an hour on the phone with her this morning, and we just do that for each other. We talk through our story. We're both pantsers, which we've talked on here before. We don't pre-plan. So when we are talking through our story, it's not that we help each other design our story, but talking it through starts ideas flowing. So
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So when you what do you do for fun?
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about what you do for fun.
Well, I do like to, I'm a homebody. And so fun for me is going for a walk, or I love puzzling. And I love to do puzzles. That's how I decompress. And another way that I'll think about my stories. I like to watch movies, and of course, I mean, I always have a couple books going. Walking my dog Winnie, playing with my son. Anything at home. I like to be at home generally. I'm a quiet person. Like you had mentioned, I certainly have not worn. This is the first time I've done my hair and worn makeup. I'll now.
I get you, girl. I think that's a common thing for authors these days. I mean, it is anyway, but usually you have to get dressed up a couple of times a week at least, you know, but man, this has been something. So, and I'm sure it's that way for a lot of our members. I think a lot of people just get up and think, well, you know, why even get dressed today? We can't go anywhere, you know. Although my husband and we've ventured out. We've done some things. We had a 40th wedding anniversary. We went up to Breckenridge, Colorado, and golfed and played. And we've been golfing and we've been doing things outside, but we're not gathering in groups with people. So that's real different. So,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Well, I want to take just a minute, and you know, we're just about out of time. What I do at the end is kind of what I call my lightning round. And it's just, if you've watched the others, you probably have already seen them. So I'm going to ask you really quick. Are you a chocolate or vanilla girl?
Vanilla, no surprise there.
Oh, see, me too. Most
Oh.
people love chocolate, and I can't stand chocolate. Pie or cake?
Pie.
Beer or wine?
Wine, rarely.
Yeah, that's me too. Stilettos or flip-flops?
Flip-flops.
Dawn or sunset?
Sunset.
Swimming or walking?
Walking.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Cook or takeout?
Take out, unless my husband's cooking, which he does cook every night. So
So do my boys. I love it. Campground or resort?
resort.
Flowers or massage?
Massage.
Ah, great. Me too. I'd probably just choose both. I don't know. One of my little things that I do for myself, I'm without kids. I've raised my family now. I'm at the place where I transitioned from a 30+ year legal career to write books, and I'm doing this full time, and I'm doing pretty well at it. So at this stage of my life, I'm doing a few things for me. And one is I do fresh flowers in my office every week. I go, it's just my little thing I do. And I get so much pleasure out of those because I live in Dallas. There's not a lot of flowers here in the summertime. In fact, if I were to put flowers out in my front yard, I'd probably have to have a funeral for them next week because it just is so hot. And, you know, I don't know, you probably can grow flowers up where you're at.
Yeah, the mountains it's different than Tucson. It's
higher in elevation, cooler, and yeah, not in Dallas. We just we swelter in the summer. And I was raised in Idaho over by Sun Valley, and I lived in the Pacific Northwest. So I still can't get used to buying geraniums in the spring instead of summer, and you know, everything's just off here. So before we go, let's talk again about where they can find you, and then we're going to talk about your giveaways.
Okay, great. You can find me at elizabethbromke.com and on
great website. I loved your website.
Thank you.
And a picture of her dog. Her dog's name is Winnie, and you'll want to go over there and see her beautiful golden retriever.
Winnie is my girl. She is my girl. And then on Facebook, Elizabeth Bromke. I have a reader group on Facebook, Bromke's Bookworms. So that's kind of just a fun, memes, other people's books, silly things. And certainly on Instagram, Twitter, I'm Pinterest, Elizabeth Bromke, and of course Amazon. But you can buy my books also at Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Apple, So you should be able to find me anywhere books are sold. And
when you go to Amazon and Barnes and Noble and that, some of those retailers have follow buttons. And it's always good if you hit follow, because then every time she has a new book come out, Amazon just sends you a little notice. So you know that she's got a book up for pre-order. And so that's kind of handy. And I can tell you this, that if you have not read Elizabeth Bromke, I read her reviews and I saw her rankings, you are going to be hooked. And so I hopefully I've brought a new author to you that you've fallen in love with, because my readers are telling me I don't put books out fast enough. So it's a delight to bring people who write like me. You've got somebody to read. And now Elizabeth is going to tell you about her giveaways. Now, for many of you who have been here before, you'll know that we are broadcasting with a platform called Zoom. And then we're integrating and live streaming that to Facebook, but that eliminates my ability and Elizabeth's ability to see any chat comments, unfortunately. But many of you know that you are supposed to be chatting, and anything that you post on our live chat in our Facebook group, Elizabeth, as soon as we end this, Elizabeth and I are going to go over there to those comments, and any questions you've posted for her, anything like that, we're going to greet you and we're going to say hello, and Elizabeth is going to answer all your questions. And now she's going to tell you how to enter her contest and what it is.
Okay, right. So just a couple hours ago, I made a separate post, and I'm going to draw 3 random commenters, and each one will get to select an ebook, and I will deliver it through BookFunnel from my collection. So that includes Maplewood, Hickory Grove, Birch Harbor.
Your catalog?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. Reader's choice.
Great.
And I encourage, if you're going with Birch Harbor, you've got to pick book 1, otherwise you'll be lost. But House on the Harbor, I mean. And then I've also just included the link to my newsletter, and you'll get the free, one of my free novellas from the Maplewood series, The Billionaire's Mountain Bride. And I think that about covers it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So then let's do this. Let's leave that open till in the morning.
Great.
And she'll choose in the morning, and then she'll post, and I'll go in and approve it so that she posts the winners, and then y'all will just work directly with Elizabeth to get, to figure out how all that works. Okay. I'll be out of
the winners.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, well, I have so enjoyed having you tonight. Thank you so much. I have seen your name constantly. You're in, Amazon has what they call also bots, which means if you buy my book and you buy her book enough, they'll show up together on Amazon, and her books are always right there with mine. So I knew I had to have her here. So
thank you, Kelly. This has been so great. You're just wonderful.
Fun. And so tell me again your family members that we need to say hello to.
Oh, okay. It'll be Leslie and Sissy, Vicky, Kara, and Kathy Bromke. And I think my husband Ed is watching in the other room.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Well, thanks for joining us. And thank you for sharing Elizabeth with us tonight. She is a delight. So we'll say goodnight. And I appreciate you all being here. And you'll want to stay tuned, because we've got someone coming up next week who is going to blow your socks off. So be watching. Good night.
Bye. Thanks.